Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Tony Soprano and if he actually had a single genuine friend in the entire Sopranos series. I don't really believe he does, so I'm going to get into that today, unpack and explain why I think every single one of his friends were fake. Now, I know on the surface it seems like Tony's surrounded by lifelong companions. He's got Paulie, Silvio, Pussy, Hesh, Artie Bucco. He's surrounded by all of these people. But when you actually look at these relationships and how they actually treat each other when the chips are down, you find that none of these friendships are authentic. I'll break that down in a second, but first I want to go over what friendship even means for Tony and what it means for normal people that aren't psychopaths like Tony. So, normally a real friend is someone who, cares about you without needing something in return. They'll be honest with you, they'll protect you, and they'll respect your humanity and not ask you to do terrible, horrible things. None of Tony's relationships meet this very light bar. Like, the bar is it's nearly on the floor. Like, don't ask your friend to kill someone. And Tony's relationships, none of them meet that bar. Every bond Tony has is transactional. It's all fear-based or born from some kind of mutual exploitation of each other. As Dr. Melfi says in the early series, in your world, trust is an unaffordable luxury. And Tony's life proves that over and over. So, first, let's talk about Pussy. Now, if Tony ever had a real friend, it would have been Big Pussy Bompancero. Like, they genuinely loved each other as brothers. They grew up together. They did jobs together. Tony trusted him enough to confide in him, party with him, and bring him into all the family events. And yet, Pussy betrays him for the FBI. Literally, the moment Pussy gets pinched, he flips. And not after months of torture or impossible pressure or anything like that. He flips immediately. He wears a wire into Tony's home after being invited. He records conversations in the bathroom at Satrial's. He plans to give up Tony to save himself. This isn't a friend. This is a man who sees Tony not as a brother, but as collateral. Even in the Funhouse dream sequence, Tony's subconscious tells him the truth, basically shouting at him that he knew all along that Pussy was betraying him.
I've been working with the government, right, Tone?
Don't say it.
Come on, Tone. Sooner or later, you gotta face facts.
I don't want to hear it.
And if Tony's closest childhood friend can betray him without hesitation, what does that say about all the other friendships? Next, let's go over Paulie. Now, Paulie is more blinded by envy. He's often portrayed as loyal and devoted, almost like dog-like, kind of like Sil, but a little more of a Chihuahua than a pit bull. Like, if that makes any sense. But if you dig a little deeper, Paulie's loyalty is built entirely on fear and dependence of the money that Tony gives to him. For example, Paulie constantly undermines Tony. Like, he leaks Ralphie's jokes to Johnny Sack, even though that is gonna mess up Tony's business with one of his capos. He reports Tony's behavior to Carmine. He tries to impress New York behind Tony's back. And he becomes obsessed with status and being respected more than Christopher. He fears Tony, but none of his actions show that he loves him. All of his actions are to gain status or some kind of fame in the mob world. None of them are out of a genuine friendship for Tony. One of the most telling scenes is when Paulie visits Tony's house during the separation from Carm. He walks around the empty living room, staring at the luxury, the power, and you can see it. Envy. Paulie doesn't love Tony. He wants to be Tony, and envy is the opposite of friendship. You can even see it in the painting, like how that magnificent general is how he views Tony. Now, I personally believe Paulie would have betrayed Tony if the price was right. Even the creator, David Chase, notes this. He says, Paulie is loyal only because Tony being in charge benefits Paulie. The minute Tony becomes a liability, Paulie starts to distance himself and go to the New York crew. A real friend protects you. But Paulie protects his access to assets. Now, this next one is a little tough. We're going to go over Sil. Sil is loyal, like incredibly loyal. But he's not Tony's friend. He's kind of more like Like a lawyer. How a lawyer is dedicated to you. He'll do everything for you. He's always by your side, and it's genuine, that loyalty. But it doesn't mean they're your friend. Silvio is Tony's consigliere. Sorry, I struggle saying that word. It's a very tough word for me. Now, Silvio follows orders because he believes in hierarchy. He benefits from Tony's power, and he's emotionally repressed. You can see this when he becomes boss. He's not good at doing all that emotional stuff, dealing with people's problems. So he needs the structure that Tony provides. Silvio doesn't challenge Tony for Tony's benefits. He challenges him for the family's benefit. He truly just cares about the mob being as good as it can possibly be. A true friend says, "You're hurting yourself." But Silvio says, "You're hurting the business." Even when Tony spirals in season 6, panic attacks, paranoia, compulsive gambling, Silvio gives organizational advice, but not personal concern. He's a great sidekick, but a friend, not in the emotional sense. Now, the next person is Hesh Rabkin. He's more of an outsider because he's not directly involved in the business, but he still does profit from Tony. Hesh is often pointed to as Tony's one normal fatherly friend, but their relationship is based on money, not emotional support. Like Hesh loans Tony money, but he still charges interest. Hesh profits off Tony's impulsive decisions. When Tony beats Hesh's driver over a small misunderstanding, Hesh stays silent out of fear. And the biggest of all, in my opinion, the absolute biggest of all, is when Hesh's longtime companion Renata dies, Tony shows zero empathy about it. But even more telling is Hesh's reaction when Tony owes him $200K. He privately tells his wife, "I think Tony might kill me over this." Real friends don't worry about the other one murdering them over a debt. Hesh doesn't love Tony. He tolerates him. Now, let's go over Artie Bucco, a complete civilian who is terrified of Tony. Now, if there was one person in the show who you'd think, maybe Tony would have a chance at just having a normal friendship with him, it would be Artie Bucco. Like, they've known each other since childhood. They played football together. And Artie's not in the business, so he has no reason to want to kill Tony or want to hurt him in any kind of way. Or even really profit off of him, to be honest. But Tony destroys him constantly. Like, Tony literally blows up Artie's restaurant and then lies about it. He even manipulates Artie financially in plenty of ways. And one time he even shoved Artie's face into a counter during a meltdown. Artie's wife literally tells him, "He's not your friend, Artie. He's just a mobster." And Artie deep down knows it's true, but he's terrified of Tony. Every friendly interaction has a little bit of fear there, but also a little bit of admiration and kind of like a painful, sobering feeling that Tony could kill him whenever he wants. Again, for the 10th time, that's not friendship. That's just a power imbalance. It's just one dude being able to kill you and you think they're charismatic, so you hang out with them and you enjoy their company, but at the same time you don't want to tell them to stop being your friend, because if you would, they would probably hurt you in some kind of way. Or at least the fear of that keeps you in the friendship. Now this one is the one that makes me the most sad. Christopher. His nephew that totally should have been his friend. If only Tony wasn't such an asshole constantly. Tony and Christopher had sort of a father-son bond. But the writers repeatedly show that even though Tony has a sort of love for Christopher, he still sees him mostly as a tool. When Christopher becomes a liability, Tony kills him. And if Tony can murder someone he calls his favorite, his family, his blood, his protege, his apprentice, then what does that say about all his other friends? Christopher wasn't Tony's friend. He was more like Tony's possession. The kind of thing that Tony could say, "I made that guy who he is today." But right when the possession breaks and Tony doesn't feel like he can control him like that, Tony kills him. So, main takeaway from this is that Tony can't really have friends in the kind of life that he lives. For example, his worldview is all about hierarchy and power and dominating people. but you can't really dominate a friend and expect them to still love you the same way. Tony sees emotion as weakness, and you can't really connect with a friend if you can't express your emotions to them. That's kind of why Tony needs to go see the therapist, is because he can't be emotional around anyone. Now, Tony's also incredibly paranoid about all of his friends, and at least in my opinion, a good friendship requires trust. Tony also manipulates everybody around him, and if you see your friends as some kind of pawn on a chessboard, you're a pretty shitty friend. And lastly, Tony destroys people, either killing them or saying words to them that are so mean and narcissistic that it makes you not even want to be his friend. So even if he doesn't kill them, destruction is still destruction. Tony's personality of being this sociopathic, violent, insecure man makes true friendship impossible. And that's why in that final shot, all we can see is Tony at the diner. And it almost feels like he's alone. You can't see anyone else there, even though there's other people around him. It almost represents Tony's life of being surrounded by people, but feeling so utterly alone. And that's why Tony dies in such a lonely shot, because he was always alone. That final scene isn't just about that fear of death. It's about the isolation of being surrounded by people, but still only feeling like you're in absolute solitude with no one to call a friend. So that's why when Tony sits alone in that diner booth, he has no friends. Just the echoes of people he used, controlled, manipulated, or lost. Every person that he called a friend either betrayed him, feared him, envied him, or died because of him. The tragedy of Tony Soprano isn't just that he might get shot at the end. It's that he created a life where he might die, never actually having anyone that loved him. That's about everything. I've said my piece on why I think Tony never had any real friends. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please say your opinions in the comments. I would love to hear them. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And I also have another video on Ralphie Cifaretto that I will pin right here, and you can click on that. Thank you guys. Bye.